Hello, friends. I hope you're all doing well by God's grace. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Let's start the second part of the episode. Anyone could have written the note. That was the defense. But Nadine didn't hesitate to dismantle it. Anyone could have written it, she said, steady and precise, but it references a location only someone inside the family would know. The courtroom shifted. Not loudly, but noticeably. The judge turned to Christine. Did you recognize the handwriting? Christine hesitated, then nodded slowly. It looks like Leon's. And just like that, a new shadow entered the room. A new possibility. A new layer of truth no one had prepared for. The courtroom no longer felt like a legal proceeding. It felt like something unraveling thread by thread. Secret by secret. The judge ordered an immediate recess. Investigators were dispatched. The room emptied quickly, but the weight remained. Robin stayed behind, sobbing, alone. For the first time, truly alone. Kody didn't comfort her. He stood at a distance, watching, calculating, or maybe realizing. Outside, Christine stood in the cold, arms crossed, jaw locked, no tears left. Mary approached her quietly. "I thought I was protecting something sacred," she whispered. A pause. "But I was just holding the match." Christine didn't respond. Not yet. Then everything accelerated. Nadine rushed back in, phone in hand, urgency written across her face. Minutes later, the judge returned. And this time, she didn't sit right away. "We've received confirmation," she said. The room went silent. Behind a dresser at the listed address, court officers discovered a locked fireproof box. Every eye lifted. Every breath paused. Inside were printed emails, financial agreements, and the original copy of the torn will. A beat, with signatures from both Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robin Sullivan Brown. The air left the room. Completely. Nadine stepped forward. "Your Honor, this confirms premeditation. The will was altered before Christine ever left. That means the separation of assets wasn't reactionary." She paused. "It was planned. Not a mistake. Not confusion. A plan." The judge nodded. "This evidence will be sealed and entered into record. We are now proceeding under full financial fraud litigation." It wasn't betrayal anymore. It was a blueprint. Every smile, every family photo, every shared moment now looked different. Because behind it, there had always been a plan. The gavel struck. Court is adjourned for today. But no one truly left. Not emotionally. Not mentally. Because the next day would change everything. Morning arrived colder. Sharper. Heavier. Kody entered first. But the man who walked in was not the same one who used to command the room. His steps were stiff. Measured. Like someone trying not to fall again. Robin followed. Not beside him. Behind him. Eyes swollen. Arms wrapped tightly around herself. Christine was already seated. Calm. Still. Unbreakable. The session began with digital evidence. Screens lit up. Messages appeared. Truth in black and white. When the Arizona property sells, Nadine read aloud, "We'll wire it to the Utah account. Don't tell Christine yet." Silence. Another message. She signed without reading. Easy. Another. "Don't put this in writing. Phone only." Christine closed her eyes. Not in weakness, but in confirmation. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew I was getting close." And instead of stopping, he went deeper. The courtroom didn't react loudly. It didn't need to, because truth like that doesn't explode. It settles. Heavy. Permanent. Then came the emails. "If this deal goes through, Nadine read, we can move Robin by summer. I'll tell the others the property failed appraisal." Robin stood abruptly. "You are going to move me?" she asked, voice shaking. Kody didn't answer. "You said this was our future," she continued. Her voice cracked. Was it ever real? No response. Because there wasn't one. Christine finally stood. "When I married you," she said quietly, "I knew it wouldn't be easy." A pause. "I accepted sacrifice." Her voice sharpened. "But I didn't agree to be erased." Silence. "You didn't leave me," she said. "You robbed me." That wasn't emotion. That was fact. The judge nodded slowly. This court will proceed with criminal referral. And, just like that, the direction of everything changed. The next day was the final day. No tension. No chaos. Just judgment. Christine entered in black. Simple. Unshaken. Robin looked hollow. Mary and Janelle sat together. Not united, but no longer divided. Kody walked in last. Alone. The judge stood. All evidence has been reviewed. A pause. This court finds Mr. Kody Brown liable for financial fraud, coercion, and civil conspiracy. Gasps. Mrs. Robin Sullivan Brown is found to have engaged in concealment and unauthorized control of joint assets. Robin broke. Christine didn't move. Mr. Brown is ordered to pay $287,000 in restitution to Christine Brown. A breath. $124,000 jointly to Mary and Janelle Brown. Numbers, but more than numbers. Recognition. RS Enterprises is dissolved. Final. And this court recommends criminal prosecution. That was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, but irreversible. The gavel fell. Christine stood, walked forward, stopped in front of Kody. You thought I'd walk away quietly, she said. A pause. But I didn't walk away. I walked toward the truth. She turned and left. Outside, cameras, voices, chaos. Christine, how do you feel? She stopped once. This isn't the end, she said. It's the beginning. And then she walked away. Days later, the noise faded. Robin released a statement. I was manipulated. Mary stayed silent. Janelle sent a message. Thank you for not giving up. Kody? Nothing. Because in the end, it wasn't the court that destroyed him. It wasn't the evidence. It wasn't even Christine. It was his own words. Recorded. Revealed. Remembered. Christine stood in her kitchen one night. Quiet. At peace. The binder sat on the shelf. Closed. Not a weapon anymore. A reminder. She smiled softly. Because she didn't wait for truth anymore. She demanded it. And that changed everything. Because when one voice finally says no more, even the strongest lies fall apart. The courtroom never truly settled after the note. It lingered in the air, unanswered, unsettling. Anyone could have written it, but not everyone could have known where to send them. Christine's voice, soft but certain, still echoed. It looks like Leon's. And with that, the case shifted again. Because now, this wasn't just about money. It was about how many people had known and how long they had stayed silent. The judge called for an immediate recess. Investigators were dispatched without delay. No one argued. No one objected. Because everyone understood whatever was hidden at that address could change everything. The courtroom emptied slowly, like people leaving the aftermath of something they didn't fully understand yet. Robin didn't leave. She sat in her chair, shoulders shaking, tears falling freely now. Not controlled. Not calculated. Raw. For the first time, she looked afraid. Kody stood a few feet away. Not beside her. Not comforting her. Just watching. The distance between them said more than any argument ever could. Outside, the cold air hit like clarity. Christine stood still, arms folded tightly across her chest. She didn't pace, didn't speak, didn't break. Mary approached carefully, like someone stepping into a truth they had avoided for too long. I thought I was protecting something sacred, she said quietly. Her voice cracked. But I was just holding the match. Christine didn't respond. But she heard her. 20 minutes later, everything changed. Nadine rushed back inside, urgency in every step. Moments after, the judge returned. No delay this time. No hesitation. We've received confirmation, she said. The room froze again. Behind a dresser at the listed address, officers discovered a locked fireproof box. A pause. Every eye lifted. It contained financial documents, printed emails, and the original copy of the torn will. Silence. With signatures from both Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robin Sullivan Brown. The weight of it landed all at once. Nadine stepped forward immediately. Your Honor, This establishes premeditation. The will was altered before Christine left. That means asset division was already in motion while the marriage still existed. Not a reaction. A plan. The judge nodded. This court will move forward under full financial fraud litigation. The gavel struck once. But the damage had already been done. Because now every memory looked different. Every family gathering. Every shared smile. Every moment of unity rewritten. The next morning, the courtroom felt colder. Sharper. More precise. Kody walked in first again. But the confidence? Gone. His steps were controlled now. Measured. Like someone trying to keep balance on collapsing ground. Robin followed behind him. Not holding his arm. Not even looking at him. Christine was already seated. Still. Composed. Unmovable. The session began with digital evidence. Screens flickered on. Truth appeared, not spoken this time, but written. When the Arizona property sells, Nadine read, "We wire it to Utah. Don't tell Christine yet." A shift in the room. Another message appeared. She signed without reading. Easy. Mary's head dropped. Another. Don't put anything in writing. Phone only. Christine closed her eyes briefly. He knew, she whispered. He knew I was getting close. And instead of stopping, he covered it deeper. The forensic expert confirmed it. Over 400 deleted messages. Recovered. Authenticated. Patterns of concealment. Patterns of control. This wasn't chaos. It was design. Then came the emails. If this deal goes through, Nadine read, we can move Robin by summer. I'll tell the others the appraisal failed. Robin stood abruptly. Her chair scraped against the floor. You were going to move me? She asked, stunned. Kody didn't answer. You said this was our future, she continued, her voice breaking. Was any of it real? Silence. Because there was no answer that could fix it. Christine stood slowly. When I married you, she began, her voice steady. I accepted that it wouldn't be easy. I accepted sacrifice. Her eyes locked forward. But I didn't agree to be erased. No one spoke. You didn't leave me, she said. You robbed me. That sentence didn't echo. It settled. Heavy. Unavoidable. The judge leaned forward. This court will proceed with criminal review. And just like that, everything shifted again. Not just a divorce. Not just betrayal. A case. A record. A reckoning. And as the session ended, no one rushed out. Because everyone understood now, this wasn't falling apart anymore. It was being exposed. Line by line. Truth by truth. And tomorrow would be the moment it all came crashing down. The next morning, the courtroom no longer felt like a place of debate. It felt like a place of reckoning. The air was colder, heavier, as if the truth that had already been exposed had settled into every corner of the room. No one spoke. No one needed to. The silence carried more weight than any argument ever could. Kody entered alone this time. Gone was the confidence, the commanding presence that once filled every step he took. His shoulders were slightly hunched, his movements slower, measured, like a man trying to delay the inevitable. Robin followed at a distance, clutching a file to her chest as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Her eyes were swollen, her expression hollow. Christine was already seated. She looked different now, not broken, not emotional, but resolved. Her hair was pulled back tightly, her posture straight, her gaze unwavering. Beside her sat Nadine and two digital forensic experts who had been brought in overnight. Across the aisle, Janelle and Mary sat together, not united, but no longer divided either. They were no longer rivals. They were witnesses. Survivors. When the judge entered, the courtroom rose, but the usual shuffle of movement was absent. Everyone sat quickly, quietly, as if afraid to disturb what was about to unfold. This session, the judge began, her tone firm and controlled, will address the digital evidence recovered from Mr. Brown's devices. A technician rolled in a monitor. A hard drive was connected. And with that, the truth began to speak for itself. Nadine stood and approached the screen. Your Honor, she said, what we have uncovered is not just a collection of deleted messages. It is a timeline. A pattern. A deliberate sequence of actions designed to conceal, manipulate, and ultimately control. The first image appeared. A text message. Simple. Direct. Damning. When the Arizona property sells, we'll wire it to the Utah account. Don't tell Christine until she's out. The courtroom went still. Christine closed her eyes, not in shock, but in confirmation. She had suspected it. Now she was hearing it, word for word. Kody shifted in his seat. That message is out of context, he said quickly. Nadine didn't even look at him. We'll provide context, she replied calmly. The next slide appeared. More messages. More coordination. More intent. Documents notarized without explanation. Signatures obtained without full disclosure. Plans to dissolve shared assets while presenting a united front to the family. Each piece added another layer. Another crack. Another undeniable truth. Robin's breathing became uneven. She knew, someone whispered. But no one said it out loud. Not yet. Then came the financial records. A withdrawal. $75,000. Transferred quietly, deliberately from the family trust. At the same time, Christine had been told there wasn't enough money for her daughter's education. That was the moment something broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But permanently. Christine's hand trembled against the table. Her attorney moved slightly, ready to support her, but she shook her head. I'm fine, she said softly. And she meant it. Because this wasn't pain anymore. This was clarity. The forensic expert took the stand next, explaining how over 400 deleted messages had been recovered through cloud backups and secondary applications. Messages Kody believed were gone forever. But they weren't. They had been waiting. Preserved. Silent witnesses. Did these messages suggest an attempt to conceal financial activity? The judge asked. Yes, the expert replied. Repeatedly. There are references to cleaning the slate, avoiding written records, and conducting sensitive conversations by phone only. The next message appeared on screen. Don't put this in writing. Phone only. A ripple moved through the courtroom. Not shock. Recognition. Christine's voice broke the silence, barely above a whisper. He knew. Everyone turned. He knew I was starting to figure it out, she said. And instead of telling me the truth, he hid it deeper. The judge leaned back slightly, her expression hardening. This now suggests willful concealment. Kody's attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, these messages, so is fraud, the judge interrupted sharply. And, just like that, the tone shifted. This was no longer just a civil dispute. This was something else entirely. Then came the final piece of digital evidence. An email chain. Negotiations with a buyer. Plans to sell part of the family land. Plans to move Robin without informing her. Without informing anyone. The room froze. Robin stood abruptly. Move me, she said, her voice shaking. You were going to move me without even telling me? Kody looked caught, truly caught for the first time. It wasn't like that, he said. Then what was it? She demanded, her voice rising. You told me we were building a future. Was that just another lie? No one intervened. No one needed to. Because for the first time, the fracture wasn't just between Kody and the other wives. It was everywhere. Christine covered her face, her shoulders trembling not from weakness, but from the overwhelming weight of it all finally surfacing. The judge didn't interrupt. She let the silence sit. Because sometimes, silence says more than any ruling ever could. Finally, Christine stood. I want to make a statement, she said. Nadine hesitated. Are you sure? Christine nodded. The judge allowed it. And the courtroom held its breath. When I married him, Christine began, her voice steady but heavy. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew I would have to share. I told myself that love meant sacrifice. She paused. But I didn't know that sacrifice would mean silence. Her eyes didn't move to Kody. Not once. I didn't know that everything I gave, my time, my trust, my loyalty, would one day be used against me. The room was completely still. He didn't just leave me, she continued. He built a future without me, while I was still standing beside him. A tear slid down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. I'm not standing here for sympathy, she said. I'm standing here for truth. And for the first time in the entire trial, No one questioned her. The final day did not begin with chaos. It began with silence. Outside the courthouse, reporters had already gathered, their voices echoing into microphones, cameras flashing in bursts like lightning before a storm. Signs were raised, questions were shouted, speculation filled the air, but inside, none of that mattered. Inside, everything was still. The courtroom doors opened slowly, and one by one, they entered. Christine walked in first. She wore black, not as a symbol of mourning, but of closure. No jewelry, no distractions, just presence. Her expression was calm, almost unreadable, but there was something different now. Something settled. She wasn't here to fight anymore. She was here to finish it. Robin followed. Her steps were slower, uncertain. Her face was pale, her eyes distant. She clutched her file like it was the last piece of control she had left, but even that seemed fragile now. The confidence she once carried had completely dissolved. Mary and Janelle entered together. Not united, not fully healed, but no longer divided by denial. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Everything that had been hidden between them had already been exposed in the harshest light possible. Then came Kody. Alone. No energy. No authority. No illusion left to protect him. He walked to his seat like a man already carrying the weight of a sentence that hadn't yet been spoken. When the judge entered, the entire room rose, but even that felt quieter than usual, as if respect had been replaced with anticipation. This was it. No more arguments. No more revelations. Only judgment. The judge took her seat, her expression firm, unwavering. She glanced over the files one last time before speaking. All evidence, testimony, digital records, and forensic analysis have been reviewed. Every person in the room seemed to stop breathing. We are now prepared to deliver the court's decision. Christine didn't move. Robin stared at the floor. Kody leaned forward slightly, his hands clasped tightly together. The pause stretched just long enough to make the moment heavier. Then, it is the finding of this court that Mr. Kody Brown is liable for financial fraud, coercion, emotional abuse, and civil conspiracy to deprive his marital partners of jointly held assets. The words landed like thunder. Not loud, but impossible to ignore. A quiet gasp moved through the room. Kody didn't react. Not outwardly. But something behind his eyes collapsed. The judge continued. This court further finds that Mrs. Robin Sullivan Brown engaged in concealment, misrepresentation, and unauthorized control of shared financial resources, though under significant influence. Robin's shoulders shook as she lowered her head, tears falling freely now. But no one turned to comfort her. Not anymore. Therefore, the judge went on, Mr. Brown is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $287,000 to Christine Brown and $124,000 jointly to Mary and Janelle Brown. Numbers. Cold. Precise. But they meant something far greater than money. They meant acknowledgement. Validation. Truth finally recognized. All real estate transactions conducted under RS Enterprises are hereby declared void. Said entity will be dissolved, and all properties reassessed under equal marital claim. Christine closed her eyes briefly, not in pain, but in release. Because this wasn't just a legal victory. It was freedom. The judge wasn't finished. Due to the nature of the evidence presented, including deleted communications, recovered recordings, and documented attempts to conceal financial activity, this court formally recommends Mr. Brown be referred to the state attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution under applicable fraud statutes. That was the moment everything changed. Because this wasn't just the end of a case. It was the beginning of consequences. Kody leaned back slowly in his chair, his shoulders sinking, his posture collapsing under a weight he could no longer carry. For the first time, he looked afraid. This court is now adjourned. The gavel struck. Once. Final. Christine stood. Nadine spoke quietly beside her, but Christine didn't respond. She wasn't looking at her attorney. She was looking straight ahead. Then, something unexpected happened. She turned and walked toward Kody. The room held its breath. He stood up slowly, uncertain, as she approached. For a brief moment, they stood face to face, not as husband and wife, not as partners, not even as enemies. Just two people standing in the ruins of something that once defined their lives. "You thought I would walk away quietly," Christine said, her voice calm but sharp. Kody said nothing. "But I didn't walk away," she continued. "I walked toward the truth." And with that, she turned and left. No anger, no shouting, just dignity. Outside, the cameras exploded with flashes. "Christine, how do you feel? Is this the end of the family? Did Robin know everything?" She paused at the top of the steps, turned slightly, and said clearly, "This isn't the end. A beat. It's the beginning." Then she walked away. Mary and Janelle exited shortly after. Not side by side, but not separated either. Something had changed between them. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Inside the courtroom, Robin remained frozen. Her legal aide gently helped her to her feet. She turned toward Kody, her voice barely audible. "You said we'd be okay." He didn't answer. He couldn't. After a moment, she turned and walked away. She didn't look back. Kody remained seated, alone. For the first time in years, there was no one left standing beside him. No one left to defend him. No one left to believe him. Only silence. Later that night, Christine stood alone in her kitchen. The house was quiet, peaceful. The binder, the one that started everything, sat closed on the table. Not destroyed. Not hidden. Finished. She made herself tea, opened a window, and let the cool air fill the room. Her phone buzzed. A message from Janelle. "Thank you for not giving up." Christine smiled faintly. The pain was still there. But it was different now. Lighter. Shared. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't carrying it alone. In the days that followed, the story spread everywhere. Headlines. Interviews. Opinions. Robin released a brief statement through her attorney. "I was manipulated. I trusted someone who deceived all of us." Mary said nothing publicly, only posted a single message: "Light always wins." Kody? He disappeared. No statements. No defense. Only silence. A week later, reports confirmed an official investigation into his financial dealings had begun. But Christine had already moved on. She purchased a modest home outside Salt Lake City. She began volunteering, helping other women find their voices she once struggled to use herself. Sometimes, she would pass by that binder on her shelf. Pause. Smile. And whisper, "Thank you." Because in the end, it wasn't the court that freed her. It wasn't the lawyers. It wasn't even the evidence. It was the moment she stopped waiting for the truth and decided to demand it. And now that truth lived on in records, in testimony, in every woman who watched her story and realized something inside themselves. Silence protects the powerful. But truth? Truth changes everything. The courthouse emptied slowly that day. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with the quiet understanding that something irreversible had just happened. The story was over, but the impact had only begun. Outside, the world was loud, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, headlines already being written in real time. But inside Christine, there was silence. For the first time in years, there was no confusion, no second guessing, no fear of speaking, only clarity, only truth. That night, she stood alone in her kitchen. No cameras, no courtroom, no voices telling her who she should be. Just her. The woman who had once stayed quiet, now standing in a life she rebuilt with her own voice. The binder rested on the table, closed, still. It wasn't evidence anymore. It wasn't a weapon. It was a reminder. A reminder of the moment everything changed. She made herself tea slowly, almost ceremonially. Every movement felt different now. Lighter, intentional, earned. She walked to the window and opened it, letting the cool night air rush in, washing away the last remnants of everything she had carried for so long. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing, existing, free. Her phone buzzed. A message. "Janelle, Thank you for not giving up. Christine stared at the screen for a second longer than necessary. Then she smiled. Not a big smile. Not a dramatic one. Just real. Because that message meant something deeper than words. It meant she wasn't alone anymore. Across town, the silence felt very different. Kody sat in a dimly lit room. No cameras. No audience. No control. The man who once commanded everything now had nothing left to command. No family gathered around him. No voices defending him. No illusion to hide behind. Only echoes. Echoes of his own words recorded, replayed, undeniable. For the first time, he had to sit with the truth he created. Robin packed quietly. No statements now. No justifications. Just distance. She paused once, looking around at everything she thought she had secured, and realized none of it was ever really hers. Not the power. Not the control. Not even the future she believed in. She walked out without looking back. Mary sat alone that same night, scrolling through old photos. Moments that once felt real. Now redefined. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She simply set her phone down and whispered to herself, "Now I see it." And sometimes, that's the hardest kind of healing. Janelle stood outside under the open sky. No walls. No courtroom. Just space. She exhaled deeply, as if releasing years of silence in a single breath. For her, this wasn't an ending. It was an awakening. And Christine? She turned off the lights, left the binder where it was, and walked away from it. Not because it didn't matter anymore, but because it had already done its job. The next morning, headlines exploded everywhere. Family empire collapses in courtroom drama, secret files expose years of hidden fraud, the truth that ended everything, but headlines only tell part of the story. The real story? It lived in the quiet moments after. The choices. The healing. The rebuilding. Weeks later, Christine stood in a small community center. No cameras. No spotlight. Just a circle of women listening. Some broken. Some searching. Some still silent. She looked at them, not as someone above them, but as someone who had been exactly where they were. And she said softly, "You don't have to stay silent to survive." The room didn't erupt. It didn't need to, because something shifted. Something real. And that's how it ended. Not with revenge. Not with shouting. Not even with the verdict. But with a voice finally refusing to stay quiet. Because in the end, it wasn't the court that brought everything down. It wasn't the evidence. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the moment one person decided, no more. And maybe the real question isn't what happened to them. Maybe the real question is, what would you do if you discovered the truth that changes everything? Final part is over. Kindly drop your thoughts in the comments. Was justice enough, or was the betrayal too deep to forgive?